Okay, good morning everybody. I wanted to do a video today specifically on marijuana stocks. They've been getting they've been getting a little bit of attention lately. Was it during the election? They had 5 states that had it on their ballots. I had read some articles before November 3rd stating that it was likely that 3 or 4 of those states were going to that legalization was going to pass in either as under medical, which was in Mississippi, so only approved for medical use, and then the other 4 states I believe were Arizona, New Jersey, Montana, and maybe New Mexico. I can't remember the other one, but that was for recreational use. So the early polls said that 3 out of 5 of them would pass, and then come election day, all 5 states approved that. So the weeks before that, since that had caught my attention, there was 2 stocks that in 2018 that had got a lot of publicity. So those are the ones that came to mind first. So I went back to the chart to kind of see where those were since those 2018 highs, and they had just gotten demolished. One of them was Aurora Cannabis. It went as high as $150, and before the election, a couple weeks, it was all the way down to $3. So it had dropped like 98% or better. The other one I'll go over later, but this one had gotten just cleaned up over the past 2 years. So whenever I started looking at the chart, I'm like, okay, is there a possibility for a bounce? Because I mean, these could still sell off. Just because something's 98% down doesn't mean it's not going to go to 0. So the first thing I brought up was RSI. So I look at the RSI a lot. I'm like, how oversold is this? Is this in a range where it's in the middle, or is it really oversold? And since 2019, I'd been oversold. And that's the thing about the RSI indicator. Just because it's oversold or overbought doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to reverse. Just because it's in, overbought is above 70, oversold is below 30. But it can stay oversold and overbought for an extended amount of time. So that's why we rely on other things to kind of get an idea of, is this a good area for a reversal or not? So kind of looking at this is on the weekly time frame. What you saw was over this past, I guess, year, as price was going lower, and I'll put a line here. Let's change this to, I guess, wait. Let me turn this off. As price was going lower, the RSI indicator was trending up. So what this is called bullish divergence. It's an indicator that people use. It could be an indication that you could use that price can reverse. Another indicator that kind of gives you something similar, and let's look at this on the, before I switch to that other indicator, let's look at this on a couple of time frames. So let's look at this on the daily. There's so many lines here. I have so many lines that are support and resistance areas. So yeah, so the same thing, and this is even on a smaller, tighter frame. So this is from September to pretty much the week before the election. As prices went lower, your indicator started to trend up. So indication, we're getting bullish divergence. And whenever I saw this and I started looking at the prior resistance levels, especially on the daily, we were here. We were like around $3, and we had some resistance here. There's a 9 here. That had already gotten back tested. Let's see what we had on the weekly. Okay, yeah. So here we go. So whenever I saw that bullish divergence, we had a 9 on the weekly that had been passed, been oversold, never got back tested. So on my, since I've been trading the TD sequential, I've found that if there's an exhaustion 9, we go past it on, multiple time frames, on the weekly, daily, or 4-hour. They're very, very good areas that in the future could serve as resistance and areas to set targets at. So I set my target at $9. So whenever I bought it at $3, that return there is huge. It's over 100% return, almost 200% return, and it essentially, you got that. So whenever I had read the prior fundamental news on marijuana stocks, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. How much more can it go? I mean, it's been 98%, over the last 2 years. How much lower can it go? So I figured it can't go much lower. If I lose, maybe I lose 10-20%, but I'm going to manage my risk so that isn't a large portion of my account. And I went in pretty heavy on this, and it did extremely well. So another indicator that also showed bullish divergence, I believe, was the CMF. So this is money flow. Let's see, or did it not? Maybe not so much on the weekly. On the daily it did. You can see it right here. So as price went lower, let's draw that a little bit better. Price went lower, the indicator maybe more so here. I mean, this isn't an exact science, but you look for little cues in the chart, in the indicators and in the charts that could give you, maybe some confidence in taking a trade. And there's a little bit of bullish divergence there. So that covers pre-election and then making a pretty good profit. So what's next? There was a bill that was supposed to get reviewed in the House in September, up for vote. I think it's called the MORE Act is what it's called. So that was supposed to get be on the floor for vote in the House of Representatives in September. Since we had the pandemic, that got pushed to December. I don't remember the exact December date. I'll have to look at the articles in, but it's in December. It's going to go up for vote in December. So where can we go? So let's look at these moving indicators that I like. These 3 indicators that I like to use. We have the big up move, and you have to understand too about these. The majority and most of these marijuana stocks, they're small stocks. They're small cap stocks. They're under 2 billion. So you're going to get a lot of volatility. You're going to get big moves until these, this sector starts to mature, and in the coming years, I think it will. So we had this big 141% move, and then we had a high, and then we had a 27% loss, and then it's kind of been, the past 2 weeks. You could have made a little money, depending on where you got, 10-20%. So is there another move? Is it ready for another move? As far as, if I didn't have that news, I probably would not be in this. I wouldn't take any risk on this until we got a little, this short term started to trend down. Past 2 weeks, we couldn't break this 30 MA. This is around $9. That was, we had a lot of good news come out and went through it, but now, this 9 is starting to serve as a little bit of resistance. So the next target up is $19. So if it gets passed in the House, there's a bunch of good news. Could we get there very quickly? Yeah, we could. On the day, we could, surge, get to this area where it got $14 and then go higher. I would say, I re-entered this. So anything I say on this channel is for, educational purposes only. It's not financial advice. It's not me giving picks. I'm just reviewing and giving you a view of what I think is my analysis of the stock. So this is, all my views and just educational purposes. So I took a small position in this. This is the target. I mean, if this starts to go back in the news, it gets passed in the House. They're so small. These stocks are so small. We could get large movements. So I think yesterday on the Bitcoin review, I'd said the hourly was a good area that gave you entries for Bitcoin for this 30 MA, this pink moving average. And I'd got this idea initially. So there's another podcast, or not a podcast, I guess it is a podcast and a YouTube channel. It's called Chat with Traders, and I listen to that all the time. I've gone all the way back to whenever it started and listened to hours and hours of interviews. And I can't remember who it was, but there was an interview, and the trader had said something about the 50 EMA, that she had used it to exit for years, and it had treated her very well for exits. So I was like, okay, so let's see how significant that is across multiple stocks. It was just an idea, and sure enough, it actually works pretty well across multiple stocks. There's a way to backtest in TradingView. I'm not going to go through that right now, but if you look here, you could have entered here because the price crossed above it. It gave you support, and then it took off. Here, make this a little bit bigger on the hourly, and you know, these stocks, like I said, are small and there's a lot of volatility, so I usually trade the daily and the 4 hour. The hourly seems to be a little bit better for this, and you know, it's not, you don't have to stick to a certain time frame. Different time frames work for different stocks. So the hourly, this moves aggressively. The hourly works for this really well. So this would have given you entry. This would have told you to exit. I don't necessarily exit and enter right when it tells you, because that could be like a false signal. So I wait till the next candle, and if this candle would have closed red below it, I would have exited. So you stay in your entry, found support, and then the next day it exploded up. So if you would have entered here around, say, $7, your exit wouldn't be till $7.91. It's, you know, so if you stick to the strategy, you're going to make, what is that, around 10%, right? So you're still in this. I'm still in this based on all the other news and TA. So I think there's potential here to make another pretty big return. So let's look at the other one. So the other one was Tilray. Same thing on this one. So the 30 EMA works, the 30 moving average, regular moving average works on this as well. It didn't give you a signal. It kind of went up. There's a gap here between the days. If you're following them together, actually, whenever I open the Aurora Cannabis position, I also opened the position for this. It didn't tell me to, but I figured, they're the same sector. 4 hour on this. There's some resistance here. These are all targets, upper targets. If it breaks this, it's going to 13. Daily. Yeah, so there's not many patterns. Another thing to look for too, if you're actually trying to learn how to trade, is trading patterns. There's a lot of trading patterns. There's flags, there's cup and handles, head and shoulders. There's so many. There's trading channels that you can use. This is kind of like a trading channel between here and here. So if you get price movement above this high, which is, what is that, like 10 months, you're most likely going to hit these other levels, 13, 15. But yeah, this one also had gotten, cleaned up. I think it was all the way up at 300. Yeah, it was way up there. So 300, it had gotten over the past 2 years. These people, unless they got out here, which I hope they did, it was down a massive amount. So another one I'm looking at, I'm open to position in to kind of benefit from this news and see. And we're getting some support here at this 30 moving average. Is that going to hold? Is it historically good. I haven't backtested this, but as of right now it is. And then this TD sequential, we have a 8 here. We have another 9. And we have a 9 candle coming up. Let's see. Actually, no, it'll be a red 1 most likely, unless it goes above this 963. So this will probably be a red 1. Maybe we get a couple of weeks of, little price swings, maybe 4 to 8% until the vote comes out. Vote comes out. If it passes, personally, I think it's going to pass the House. We get news, it goes up. Now, just because it might be good news, it doesn't necessarily mean price will go up. There's instances across everything where a company comes out with good news and price crashes. So there's a saying in trading: you buy the rumor, sell the fact, or buy the rumor, sell the news. That happens a lot, but it's trading. Like I said in the last video, it's dynamic, not static. So you constantly adapt to the price action. But that's pretty much it. Review on these. We can look at some other stuff real quick, I guess. Ichimoku Cloud, we're within it. There's not much there. Yeah, so there's a little cross. Price is going into this cross. Weekly. Yeah, this doesn't even have with the parameters I use. This doesn't even have enough data. This hasn't even been trading long enough to give you anything on the weekly. Let's see if Aurora Cannabis does. Yeah, a little bit more. So yeah, that looks okay. There's resistance right here actually. It kind of closed above it, went below it, and if Aurora Can goes below 8, I'd probably start to get a little nervous, and it could really start to go back down, because this is actually a level. Since we had a 9 here, this is a level where I would say we could go back to. So yeah, you have a 7. This is old though. So you have a 7 here. That could be support. 663.